Good morning friends. Now we are here to go into something which is called inferential statistics. We have already discussed descriptive statistics, normal graph, and now we are ready to go towards discuss inferential statistics. Now, before we go on to inferential statistics, we need to understand what is in sample, because if you don't understand sample and population, then two types of statistics, inferential or descriptive statistics, will not make any sense. So let's come to a image. Now, if I say what is the mean, how many chapatis people eat in India on an average, okay, and that is the mu, let's say, and let's assume it is 3. So now the question is how you will find out it is 3. Somebody will go and find in UP and find average for 1,000 people, or maybe 50,000 people, 1 lakh people. Somebody will go to Calcutta or West Bengal. So different states people will go and find out that what is the average. Here comes a difference between sampling and census. So a census is a term where all the population have been studied. Like that is why we call census India. So it's a very big exercise, happens once in 10 years. So what happens, each and every household is studied to find the real parameter, whatever they are interested, household income, number of kids and religion and whatever census details. So each and every individual is tried to study. That is called census, where the complete population of interest is actually studied as much as possible. Now why I am saying as much as possible, because practically, theoretically it is very difficult to understand how much is the actual population, because some people register, not register. So we are not getting to, as much as we have the access of data, we will go to those people and find out. That is census. Okay. Now, if you are doing a study, a census happens once in a while, happens with the help of government agencies and everything. So you can see what it requires to do in census. Okay. Now, if I ask you again census, by census, like how many children people have, let's put it that way, on an average. That is census data, but if I and you have to understand it, it's very difficult. So hence what happens, there is a method of sampling. Now, when you have sample, as we were discussing Chapati's example, and as you can see in this image, you might not take the complete population, or you might not take even half of the population, and you might take 10% or not even 10%, sometimes 1% of the population, and try to find. So these small circles which you can see, which are having four people in that, so that is a small sample as compared to population. Okay. So that is what is more important, because that is what we can capture. So this is a different representation of population. Somebody studied West Bengal, somebody studied UP, somebody studied Karnataka, different states. Now, having said that, now what we will observe is that here, if we calculate their means, because that was our agenda, to find number of chapatis people eat, okay, and if we find their means will not be same, okay, their means will not be same, and therefore it is very difficult to find what is the actual population mean. So what we say, okay, we do not have the population distribution only possible when we have this data of all the people like a census, and then we try to plot that. When we come to a sample, so when we plot averages of all samples, then we get a sampling distribution. Population distribution is from the population. Okay. if I take heights of all the people in, as we talked earlier, if we take heights of all the people, okay, then it will follow a normal curve. If we take weight, it will follow a normal curve, okay. But that's generally not possible. It is feasible, it is generally not feasible, it can be done, it's not impossible, but not, it has a very high cost of doing it, a high time, much time is required, so required, as we know in census. Census is not practical. So we sample. So when we sample, and as you can see, the average, this is x bar, please understand the difference between x bar and mu, okay. This x bar is different from the x we were using in the standardization. So that was xi minus mu divided by 3, zi is equal to xi minus mu divided by sigma, okay. So here each x bar is actually the mean of that sample. Each x bar is the mean of that particular sample, and as you can see in the according to photograph, so we have 3, 2, 4, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 5, 2. So in this way we expect a sampling distribution to be created. Now the main point is, as close the sampling distribution is to the original distribution of population, that much surety we have in our analysis. So please understand, first understand different population and sample. Population is the mass we are interested in, and sample we are trying to study from that population due to feasibility reasons. Now, okay, not every time our objective is to understand complete India or complete population of India when we are trying to understand how many chapatis. Let us say we are interested in trying to understand how many hours people in any university sleep. All students in the university sleep. So now let us assume a university size is 10,000. So when you are doing the census here the census means all students. So what you can do, you can go and ask each and every student, roll number wise and everything, and like marks you have and everything, please feed the data how many hours you sleep. Okay, so this is a census. Now again all departments will be involved, all Rothschild will be involved, everything will be involved, okay. For doing the census of, the census does not mean census at a national level, census is also at a very local level, where means all population is covered, the complete population is covered. So then what you do, then can you do that? If it is possible, if you have the census data is very good, if you have the complete 10,000 data for all the people is very good. But suppose we don't have that, or we can't have it, because until unless you involve university authorities, you can't have this data. If some students try to study how many hours people sleep in our college, and to get the population data each and every student will be very difficult without the intervention of administrative authorities. Okay. Now when you don't have that, so what you will do at your level, okay, let's try to understand, let's go to hostel 1, find out, on hostel 1 there are 400 students, you can't get them, you will get 40 of them. Then you went to hostel 2, you got 30 of them, okay. Then you go hostel 4, then you go to hostel 5. Suppose you go to all hostels maybe, then even if you go to all hostels, some day scholars are left. You can say, let me go to departments and get people. So you can go to departments, you can go to hostels, you can go branch wise, discipline wise. Now this is our sampling, this is where our sampling techniques are involved. So one is sample and another is sampling technique. Okay, so first there is a difference between population and sample. Second question is how much should be the size of the sample, and the third thing is how you will observe the sample. Okay. Now if we go in detail of this becomes a more research method topic, that how many types of sampling things are there, sampling methods are there, and there are many: stratified, random, convenience, and okay, probabilistic, non-probabilistic. We will not get into that, it's a complete domain, but these are sampling techniques, that what are the technique you are involved, like in our case which we discussed, you can go hostel wise, you can go department wise, or you can go engineer branch wise, okay, or you can go year wise. So, what is your segmenting criteria? And suppose what you did, there is one very interesting method, like okay, let me get the data of all the people from the administrative authorities. Achha, so we have 20% of the people are engineers, electrical engineers, 30% are so let us say chemical engineers, 20% of art students, 10% are this. So, I will draw my sample in that ratio also. Okay. So, there is a complete elaboration of how to draw a sample, that is in sampling techniques. Right now, we will not touch that, because that will deviate us from the basics, because this is not basic, this is quite little a step ahead. So, basic is to understand difference between sampling and sample and population. We always study the sample most of the time, until unless we have census ability, we study the sample and we infer about the population from the sample. So, let me write this. We infer about population by studying sample or samples. Hence, it is called inferential statistics. Okay. Hence, it is called inferential statistics. On the other hand, if you see in our software also, we have descriptive statistics. So, what does descriptive statistics do? Is just describe generally the sample, as you can talk about it. Okay. So, samples, if you are just describing them, like if in this case I take average of the first circle, which is 3, and I say that the mean of this sample is 3, this is a descriptive statistics. Again I say the mean of this sample is 2. Again, this is descriptive statistics. Okay. Or coming to our example of hostel, how many students sleep, how many hours people sleep in college. So, if I study hostel 1 students, 40 people or 50 people, or even let us say all people, then if we say the average, then the average of that hostel data is actually a description of that sample. So, what we try to understand from the descriptive statistics is the sampling technique proper or not, or application of sampling technique is proper or not. Now, what does that mean? Suppose you are going to study, again this example, you go to 40 students, and suppose you just go and stand at 7 o'clock in the morning and just stand there and count 40 people. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 they are coming, and how many hours you sleep? So, naturally those people who get by 7, who are wake up by 7 a.m. going to the department or some place, they might sleep from 11, 10 p.m. at max, at minimum, maybe 9 in some cases. So, they might say 8 hours, 9 hours. Okay. Now, this is a distorted sample. Okay. As compared There might be some people in hostels you might have, they sleep at around 1 a.m. in the night, and then they wake up at around 10 p.m. in the 10 a.m. in the morning. Again, as they have missed the classes, they might sleep again, or they might sleep in the evening also. Okay. So in that way, descriptive statistics about a sample is required to understand if the sample we are studying is a representative of the population or not, or if it is a deviation, how much deviation is possible, and which is very difficult, because if suppose you do not know that how many hours people sleep and you just go and scan the first 40 people in the morning, there might be somebody who will go at 10 p.m. in the night and try to scan this answer, and he will get answer like 11 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours. Therefore, multiple samples are required to understand if our population is right or not, if our sampling technique is proper or not. This is very important. In inferential statistics, we are never sure. We can be only sure when we do a census. Hence, always we talk in probabilistic terms. We say the average is this much with this much % of confidence, and we will talk about confidence interval later. Okay. So this is important to understand. That's population and sample are different, and we need to have multiple samples, and we will come to that what happens when we do the survey and we get a sample, and from survey we are not getting the whole population. Let's say the question is to find the buying intention of people buying phones. Why do they buy phones? Is it their necessity, or is their social need, or it is their professional need, or whatever. Now, ideally this question is a very big question, because it's a whole population. If you are interested, then everybody who is using the phone, you should do that. Therefore, we narrow down, okay, in the age group from 15 to 20 years. Again, you reduce the population, but still it is quite a large. So in that way, we have to define our population in such a manner that whatever sample we will take might represent the population. Otherwise, it's a big issue itself that sampling is not proper. I am just studying girls hostel and I am trying to predict about all youths. No, that's not possible. Or then I have to say, though I try to target all youth, but I am studied girls only, hence I can say about girls only. Okay. So this method of surveying and sampling technique and this sort of involved there. It's a higher end statistics. We will not go right now. So now we will go to something else, which is also something like this: population and sample. Now you might have heard the word model. Model. What is a model? I am not talking of the modeling as a profession. So if you remember the word model, make a model of the the solar system, make a working model of a phone, okay, make a working model of a car, okay. So that's model. Now what does model means when we apply to statistics? Modeling we are doing in statistics, modeling, what is that? So let's take this example. Suppose in the real world you saw, let's say, the Golden Park Bridge of San Francisco, or we can also take the suspension bridge of Calcutta. Okay. Now somebody who has not seen that bridge meets somebody who has seen that bridge, and if that somebody who has seen that bridge does not have the photograph, is describing the bridge, उसमें रस्सी होती है, उसमें दो खंबे होते हैं और उसमें ना एक प्लान होता है. So in this way, whatever information the receiver is gathering that is data. Not necessary whatever he is speaking he is understanding. Okay, let's assume he understands, that is a different thing. Okay, he says उसमें दो खंबे होते हैं, उसमें एक पट्टी होती है, then we have a road on that, we have iron bars on that. In this way, how much he can describe and how much he can understand. Like when we say a patti road for some people means road means mud, kacha road. They might not have seen a tar road. Or some people for road means tar road. They can't imagine road made of bricks. And there are places the roads are made of bricks. Okay, so we'll not get into that. So depending on the phenomena or the concept we are trying to describe and the ability of the person who is described, the receiver receives that, and the receivers then create कि भाई ऐसा दिखता होगा. That is a model. What is a model which we create in the of the solar system? We are just trying to understand from our telescope ऐसा वैसा, the sun is here, the moon is here. So then we try to say okay ऐसा दिख रहा है. What exactly we don't know. We are just trying to capture data from our telescope, from our different radio sonar instruments, not sonar but radio instruments. Okay, we are trying to capture, we are sending satellites, we are sending people, we are getting information back, and then we are getting data, and on that basis we are making a model. Okay, so that the person understands what it could be. You just might type solar system model making for kids. So they will have the disk of Saturn that fits in a circle, and then that sits on a what we say axle, and then you can rotate that axle. Okay, so that's very interesting. So all that is actually coming from the information of the real world, or coming from our understanding of the real world. And therefore, when we talk of a model, the models keep on modifying. Those who have studied electronics, there were different models of the electronic space, okay, or the Rutherford model and the Bohr model and different models. Why? Because they might observe same phenomena, but they might describe it differently. So therefore, there is an always different attempt to understand a phenomena. Okay, just like this case. What is this? We have a bridge, real world bridge. Now, somebody who makes the bridge on the left side after hearing a description, because please understand, hearing it properly, understanding it properly, and making a model out of it, these are three different steps, and you can lose information all of them. So you get a fit like this, a good fit, which is near about the same thing. They look like that. On a photograph, if you take the look, the real model might be 5 kilometers long, the real bridge, but your model is around 5 feet long. That's what happens in maps. We always say maps are to scale. The scale is there on the right hand side or left hand side. Okay. A moderate fit is like here it was suspension bridge, but now it has become one suspension. ठीक है भाई, something is there. And a poor fit, this is just a bridge. Suspension कहाँ लगाए हैं, कैसे लगाए हैं, we don't know. Now please don't think it is not. This is what happens. We are trying to understand some concept. We take some data. That data might be selective. That's one thing. Okay, again, and then we try to formulate. That is what we are trying to do. How many hours people sleep? We don't know. Yes, we don't know. So we go and just study the 7 p.m. 7 a.m. in the morning. We stand 40 people. We get हाँ सब लोग सोते होंगे तो 8 घंटे. And we come back and we report. And on that basis we make models, or we make such something. Okay, as people sleep for 7 hours, the schedule of the students should be like this. We can have yoga and this and that, whatever we can point to. So a description of these two things, the matching the phenomena or the real world description, when tried to adjust by having the data, that is called making of a model. Now, again let us come to a financial thing. When we say we are trying to make a financial model, what does that happens here? So, the prices are changing every day, let us say the stock. Okay. Now, there are multiple factors due to which the stock prices change, and let us say we have listed them out. Now, the question is, in real world, how much by how much percentage in which time the factor changes, like could be government intervention, could be socio-political situation in the country, could be world situation, could be foreign relationship, could be foreign currencies, and the list goes on. So, multiple variables are there. Okay. Now, when I am making a model, so obviously I do not have all the data. I might have, but it is very difficult to have it, or difficult to quantify. How do I quantify social political thing? It is good or just more than good? How do I characterize? Because it is a qualitative factor. So, in this way we characterize these things and then try to say, okay, the price of the stock is related to variable 1, which is currency this much, the currency, socio-political situation this much, and this way. And here comes the thinking of the researcher. Okay. So, with that we will try to put a pause and we will move to real world curve fitting, because curve fitting, model fitting is an attempt to understand that.